So, when did counseling stop being about problem solving? Well, not anymore. Introducing solution-focused counseling with the unlicensed counselor. And now, here's your host, Steve Moak.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of The Unlicensed Counselor. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor, and as always, so grateful to be here on a summer hot day here in Scottsdale, Arizona. It is that time of year. It's hot and going to get hotter. But let's not let that put a damper on all the good things we got going on in the world. I just got back from a couple-day trip up to Park City, Utah. 70 and sunny. Didn't exactly want to leave there, but you know what? The world is happening down here in Scottsdale, and we got to get back to record this show and bring it directly to your ears. And first, I want to say a big thanks. We've got a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new downloads, a lot of new followers. We got a lot of new eyes and ears. I think a lot of the YouTube shorts are starting to do really well. So thanks if you're just kind of finding out about the Unlicensed Counselor. What I do is kind of get on here, talk for about 30 minutes on general mental health, behavioral health topics. I try and get right to the point of solution kind of focused ideas on how to improve things you can put into play today to kind of make your life better depending on whatever topic that we're talking about. So big thanks to everybody who maybe just found me or just found the show, and continued thanks to the friends and folks who are sharing this to others as well too. So, I had a topic, as always, that I was even talking to the folks before we started the show today. It's like, how do you come up with some of the topics and things? It's like, well, I got stuff going on in my life that's never a shortage of things that I would like to talk about. And the one that kind of had me going, I actually had this conversation while I was out of town over the last couple of days, was, sometimes there are decisions that we don't make, right, that end up being the best decisions. And I've been chewing on that idea, and I had this idea previously, but I've kind of had these thoughts around it, because as I look back in my own life, in things where I'm like, either situations that I didn't go with that group, or the girl that I didn't date, or the house that I didn't buy, or the car, whatever it is, where at the time you may feel conflicted about something, but in the end it could be weeks, days, months, or years later, you look back and go, oh my gosh, imagine if I would have actually done that, right? And think of the consequences and things. And I think it's a really important thing to consider, because we probably beat ourselves up over those things a lot of times in that moment. And if you're able to zoom out, kind of a couple years later and go, wow, what could have happened, if I would have done that, if I would have put myself in that position. So I wanted to flush this out over the course of the last week. So I came up with kind of 10 ideas around, why the decisions that we don't make are sometimes the best decisions. I want to cover some of that today. And maybe as you're listening to this today, think about that decision. And it could be a big decision. It could be a small decision. It could have been to get in that car with somebody who maybe had a couple pops and they ended up getting in an accident or worse. Or maybe it was the house or that you didn't buy, or the guy or girl that you dated or didn't date. Think about something like that. And I've got numerous examples of this in my life where I'm just like, holy cow, like imagine if I would have done that instead of that, and how my life would be different. These little paths, these little V's in our life that we go this way or that, and just really the path that it sets you on. So anyways, that's what we're going to dig into here in just a second. But first, let me do a big thank you to our continued support, and the show could not be possible with our friends at ShareTech. Go to betterdrugtest.com. If you need an at-home drug or alcohol screen, this is the at-home test that the leading treatment centers and outpatient programs across the country tell their clients to get, and their clients' families to get, when they discharge from these, very high-end places. The reason that they do that, it's the test that you can trust, right? It is the most accurate, and it's the most comprehensive test available on the market. The sample that you provide gets sent to a lab, and then you get secure results sent back to you telling the number of drugs and the level of the drug in your system as well. That includes alcohol and other drugs that are not very common on those kind of simple little tests that you pee on a strip in a cup type of thing. So go to betterdrugtest.com, and again, big thank you to them. On a personal side, I co-founded a nonprofit called HeartStop. Go to thestopstartshere.org. This is youth drug abuse prevention messaging. The only thing that we do is focus on social media. But to the parents that are out there, it's important for you to follow us as well, too. And if you go to our website, thestopstartshere.org, you're going to find a playbook that I co-authored as well, too, called the Parents Prevention Playbook, which is really practical kind of tips, tricks, advice on how to prevent your son or daughter from ever getting started with drugs and alcohol. Because candidly, that's as a person in long-term recovery, the only way that I've found to never have an addiction issue is to never start. So go to the Stop Starts Here or follow us at Heartstop Official on all those usual channels. And then last shameless plug as well, too, go and find me on, the Unlicensed Counselor YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I even started a TikTok page now, which is surprisingly actually doing fairly well. As these things go. So, posting a lot of clips, shorts, a lot of the little sound bites that you hear come to the show, we just chop up and we post on there. So you don't necessarily have to listen to the whole show, but you can still find some of my useful, I think, suggestions that are floating out there into the world as well, too. So, again, appreciate all the support and a big thanks and hello to all the folks who may be just dropping in for the first time to the Unlicensed Counselor Show. So, okay, we got all that fun stuff out of the way. Now, the 10 things that I wanted to talk about, and I just kind of mow down this list today because it's really been on my mind of, man, if I would have gotten in that car, or if I would have gone to that party, or if I would have snorted that line or smoked that thing, like, God knows. I mean, I don't think it's a far stretch at all for me to say that I wouldn't be here. I could either be in jail, I could have hurt someone, I could be overdosed and dead. I could have, kids from multiple, women. I mean, it's like, holy cow, some of the crap that I've done over the years that I didn't do and how important that was to my life and the trajectory that it set me on. So the number one thing I had on my list was kind of avoiding impulsivity. So, not making a decision can prevent impulse actions that are maybe not well thought out, right? So that's just an example. So deciding not to buy an expensive gadget on a whim can save you money, and you can avoid kind of buyer's remorse as well. So, it kind of keeps you from that impulsivity. And look, I don't know if being a recovering person, recovering drug addict, alcoholic, I tend to be impulsive a lot of the times. I don't know if it just kind of goes along with the disease or whatever, the addiction, whatever it is. So for me, being able to kind of slow things down and not do these impulse things, and it's so easy to do, Mal. People that have the Amazon packages coming every day. I've actually been consciously kind of slowing down my roll on the purchasing in the Amazon, except for shoes. I might have a little bit of a problem with shoes. But outside of that, everything else I've really kind of slowed down. And even on the shoe part, I would say I'm less impulsive, but making sure that I actually do want those. Notice how I didn't say need, just a want there because, might be running out of room in the old storefront. Okay, or in the house front. Number 2, allowing time for clarity, right? So time can provide you more information and clarity, leading to better decisions in the future as well. So let's say an example, delaying a career change can give you time to explore other opportunities and make a more informed choice, right? So again, on the thoughts of why the decisions you didn't make are sometimes the best ones. These are just a few things as to why that could contribute to this, or maybe you want to think about before you're just kind of jumping into some of these certain decisions. Number 3 is I had preventing overcommitment, right? So not making a decision can help you avoid overcommitting and taking on too many responsibilities, right? I think I have found that I can overcommit to certain things, right? Since I've gone into the startup world in the last decade, I get very excited about different ideas and things like that, or people will come to me with different ideas and want me to help them kind of get it off the ground. And I really like that early stage stuff. I really like taking just an idea and kind of building it up into something. And I've done it too many times now, right? And there's a couple times where I've gotten to a point where it's like, oh, geez, I got too much on my plate here. And I've now become much more strategic and actually kind of created a filter in which I run ideas through on my own stuff, let alone other people's stuff that they come to me with, and to make sure that I don't overcommit to things as well. And I'm finding I'm having better life balance. I'm finding better success in some of the projects that I do take on as well too, by being able to, not overcommit myself to these things. So number 4, letting situations resolve themselves, right? So some problems resolve themselves on their own without the need for intervention, which is nice, right? A conflict, excuse me. So saying no to additional projects at work can help you better focus on your current task and maintaining a healthy work-life balance. So look, there's a couple different things I'd like to touch on here. I have found that when you let situations resolve themselves, and I'm not saying ignore it or walk away from it or anything like that, but I am saying that maybe I don't need to jump in with my emotions and kind of see if I can settle things or see if I need to intervene myself. Sometimes if I can just kind of let things go a little bit and let them run its course. I'm also, and I've said this in other shows as well too, making sure I give a little time before I just react into something as well. And by me not getting involved or jumping into it right away, I've found sometimes these things kind of get resolved on their own, and I don't need to be the one to kind of get in there and try and control it or manage it to an end result or something like that. So just something to keep in mind as you kind of have these thoughts around why the decisions we don't make sometimes can be, the best ones, right? Now, on that point as well, too, number 5 on my list is maintaining flexibility, right? So avoiding a decision can keep your options open and allow for more flexible future actions as well, too. So, think about that. Here's an example. Not immediately deciding on a specific investment can leave you open to better opportunities that may arise later. Now, this is something that I've struggled with because it's like, I've been right there and I want to do things, but I don't do it, or maybe I do it, and then you miss something because you didn't let enough time, or you kind of get to these positions where it's like, oh man, I don't know, you're in the here and now, and you can't see how good things can be if you maybe would have passed that one. And I do find, and I've been on both sides of this, when I get past certain opportunities and I can look back and go, oh wow, I would have never been on this amazing opportunity had I not passed on this one that was kind of right in front of me. So you never quite know what's around the corner from you as well too. And that's why I think it's just wise to take a little bit of time and making sure that you're kind of vetting different things and these big decisions that you have, that you don't necessarily need to rush into these things as well too, right? So number 6 I had on the list was avoiding regret, right? So sometimes the fear of making the wrong decision and regretting it later can be avoided by not making a hasty decision. So, I have found that that's something I, again, struggle with, which is why I always hit these things, because it's like, okay, these are things that I often struggle with, right? But avoiding regret, I don't know how the best way to say it. So let me just give you an example. So not choosing a specific university immediately can allow you to visit more campuses and make a decision you're more comfortable with. The reason I chose that example is, when I was looking at college, again, I was a pot-smoking, drinking 18-year-old in, Scottsdale, Arizona, and I wanted to go to University of Colorado at Boulder. But I went to visit Pepperdine, right? And let me tell you, that is a gorgeous place over in Malibu, California, and, it's right on the beach there. My parents were pushing me to kind of go there, and I got there, and I loved it. But at the same time, I had this addiction side of me kind of going, where I'm just like, and I had friends that were in the fraternity up at University of Colorado, and I wanted to do the kind of more traditional quote-unquote fraternity thing. I think I grew up in that age where you watched Animal House and you thought those guys were super cool, right? You look on that movie now and it's like, whoo, boy, there's some dicey stuff that's there. But, what if I had made the decision to go to Pepperdine instead of going to the University of Colorado? Like, how different would my life be? Again, for those of you who are just downloading, I've been in long-term recovery for going almost a decade now, but this is my second time around. I crashed and burned by the time I was not even a sophomore in college, right? So my freshman year of Boulder was really almost a blackout. So it's like, man, if I would have gone over to Pepperdine and actually had to attend a church service or something like that, and maybe been around a different period and didn't do the fraternity thing, And again, this is, I don't know if I would call this regret or not, but this is just one of those where I did make a decision, and I'm not going to say it's right or wrong, but I certainly learned from it, and it certainly was one of those pivotal points in my life that kind of set me on a path versus set me on another path. So just something to keep in mind as you're kind of thinking around this whole decision-making kind of topic as well. So next up on the list was learning and growth. The process of considering but not making a decision can be a valuable learning experience, right? So, I think about this often as I've been approached with new ideas or businesses, either one to start or one to go work for. I see a lot of neat things and I really take my time. Whereas, in my former life, or maybe I would have jumped at things a little bit faster and really kind of gotten onto this thing. And as I've learned and grown over the years, I've slowed my roll on this. And then as you see sometimes these businesses or the people involved with them kind of take shape, you're like, ooh, wow, I didn't see that side of that person early on. So again, just taking my time with this and not making a decision to kind of jump onto something, even though it may sound cool, sexy, and neat at that time, has really been something that I've learned over the years. And again, I've learned that through trial and error as well, too. So, again, not signing up with that startup or not taking that position with that company has been something that I've learned to just kind of take a little more time with as well, too. Next up on the list, I had economic or market changes as well. So think of this like economic conditions or market trends can change, right? So making a previously risky decision more favorable later. Example, holding off on selling some stocks during a market dip can result in a better return when the market recovers. This is a little bit more on the financial side, but it's a good example of, being able to, not pull the trigger on that one thing and have that be the best decision that you ever made down the road. I work in the startup world a lot now, and I see a lot of these people who do early investing in startups and things like that. And there's a lot of times when you get talking to a lot of these investors, it's like, I missed on this one, or I put 50K into this one or 100K into this one, didn't have any idea it was going to turn into this massive thing that it did. So it's really just interesting on when you get that, that 100-mile view back on some of these things, the things that you did right or the things that you did right by not doing anything at all. And that's the stuff that I think about quite often because, as a, recovering drug addict and alcoholic, I did a lot of risky things. And I'm just very fortunate to sit here as a podcaster now and be able to share this and go, my God, somehow, some way, some person, some entity was out there looking after me, because it's like, man, not making those decisions allowed me to still, be in one piece here today. All right. Last couple things on the list, and I just want to share a couple more thoughts on this topic. So, number 9, the influence of others, right? So time can bring in advice and perspective from others that you hadn't necessarily considered, right? So an example of delaying a major purchase might give you the chance to consult with friends or family who might offer you valuable insights as well, too. Instead of rushing into something like that and jumping right into something, you're able to kind of take in some advice and some suggestions for others, and then maybe be able to prevent that regret, or maybe make a little bit better decision so that you're not looking back on this when you get a little ways out and going, oh, what in the heck is going on? I just remember in the house that I bought post-divorce, there were a couple different houses that I was looking at, and there was one that I really wanted at the time, and I was negotiating, and I was putting in these offers, and I was working with my agent and all this stuff, and it just flat out didn't happen, right? It just didn't happen. And now the house that I ended up in, I'm in love with. I ended up redoing it. It came out great, a better location. The neighbors I didn't know at the time are outstanding. They roll the trash, like a little bit of Mayberry. They roll my trash can in when I'm not there or something like that. So it's just cool that, I was talking to my family. They're like, look, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I'm not a big meant to be kind of guy. It's like, I want to do it and I want to do it this way. And it's a little, goes against my yogi kind of attitude in the world, but you know what, damned if they weren't right. And it's like I ended up with this, little house that I absolutely love and a great little spot. And the other one I would have had is, I look back on it and go, why was I even, it doesn't even make sense now. Why was I pushing so hard for that? But you get kind of caught up in these things. And sometimes I get caught up in the deal, and it's almost like a competitive situation. I want to win, and it would be me winning to get that. But if I would have won, I actually would have lost, right? If that makes any sense out there in the podcast ears of the world. So last but not least on kind of just my initial list here is avoiding unintended consequences, right? So immediate decisions can sometimes have unforeseen negative consequences that become apparent with time, right? So an example would be choosing to not implement a new policy at work right away can prevent disruptions and resistance amongst employees. So, these are all just kind of ideas that I wanted to plan out there on why, the decision you didn't make could end up being the best one. But I want you to take a few minutes out of your day today and think about it, because you could be in that position right now and not even realizing it, that you're about to make, a big decision on something. It could be a divorce. It could be a new appliance. It could be a house. It could be a car. It could be where to send your kids to school and things like that, or maybe moving across the country. There are all kinds of these decisions. And I'm not saying, you're necessarily going to make the right or wrong one. Just take a little bit of time as you're doing this. Talk to some of the people that you trust around you and make the best decision you're able to have possible. But then accept whatever that decision that kind of comes with it as well, too. And I think over time, when you're able to look back, if you find yourself trying to force this decision or try and force what you want into this thing, in my experience, I found that that's where the mistakes come in, right? Is when I'm just pushing. And one of the things that I've done really well in my own life now is when I find myself pushing against something and it's fighting, I'm going, oh, there's a reason. There's a reason why this is not working. Like this probably isn't right. And I've been able to accept that more and go, oh, this is you wanting something so badly to happen. Take a step back, let whatever needs to happen, and almost inevitably, better things down the road have panned out for me. It doesn't necessarily seem like that over the time when you're caught in it and emotions are high and tensions. You've invested time, effort, money, energy, all that kind of stuff into whatever the thing that's going on. But I think the best advice I have on this is if you find yourself really pushing up against something and really trying to make that thing happen and it's not happening, maybe there's a reason, right? Maybe there's a reason that you may just not know of. And so be able to maybe take a step back and kind of reassess and look at exactly, why that is. And I'll bet you, you can post on social media somehow. I'll bet you that in a year or two after this decision, it's going to come out more favorable in your way. So, look, just a little topic that I had some thoughts on. So I just like to put random thoughts out here. Again, if you're new to the podcast, thank you. I appreciate it. Glad you're listening. Please share this episode or go back and look. I record these episodes in a way that they're not necessarily time sensitive or tied to a specific topic or current event that's going on in the world. So you should be able to drop into these episodes. If you see a topic or a headline, listen to it, and it should be relevant to any point in time. Again, it's not necessarily tied to anything. They're kind of meant to be bite-sized episodes for you to digest at any single point in time. So if you see a topic or a headline, scroll back through, take a look. Gosh, I don't know how many episodes we're even up to now. It's a lot, right? So, find something, listen to it, share it with a friend, give us a follow on social media. We sure appreciate it. And again, thanks for the continued support. My name is Steve Moak, and I am the Unlicensed Counselor. Till next time, thank you very much.